ninth round pick out of the Citadel in 1981. Stump carved out a successful NFL career with the Cardinals.
He's strong. He can move. He was agile. He can make guys miss. He had it all. He had everything in his game.
In Cardinals franchise history, only Larry Fitzgerald has more all-purpose yards.
He did it all, man.
Hello, everyone. I want to welcome the world, our Browns fans, to the Stump Talk podcast, Running Back University. Today is Tuesday, January 6, 2025. We just come out of Black Monday. There are 7 head coaching vacancies. Hello, Coach Stump. Hello, Saphyr. Hello to the Oracle, Russell Johnson. This is our team. We have a great show ahead. Russell, I wish you were in here so I can grind and ask with you about Andrew Berry. So please feel free. But Coach Stump, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling great. I feel, me physically, mentally, I feel sorry for those coaches and families and that, had to go through the transition that they're going through right at this time.
Saphyr?
Coach Stump, you're just a class act. I'm so happy that Coach Stefanski is looking at other opportunities and taking a $7 million paycheck for him and his family into his new chapter. Very happy, very happy.
I am not as classy as the two of you. But honestly, I never take joy in someone else's demise. Obviously, Coach, but I will tell you, I was glad to see a changing of the guard. I was a little disappointed that they didn't clean house, with the GM or whatever position Andrew Berry is in. I want to jump right into the game against the Bengals. First and foremost, Shedeur Sanders, 11 for 22, 111 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked 6 times, 29, a loss of 29 yards. Of course, we want to celebrate our guy, Myles Garrett, breaking the record, the NFL season sack record. He did have an extra game to do so. Myles, the future first ballot. Burrow was 29 for 39, 236 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. And that all led us to Black Monday. So, Coach, we've already had 2 or 3 shows today between our communications. Give us your thoughts on the firing of Kevin Stefanski.
Well, I definitely think that was the right thing to do. I mean, Kevin, he allowed guys that actually made him both some players and coaches go the last couple of years, and you can see where it got him. I mean, he's won 8 games, I think, the last 2 years. He had a great team in Alex Van Pelt and Coach Callahan, T.C. McCarthy, myself. And, offensively, he's struggled since then. I mean, he's put the blame on 2 different offensive coordinators, allowed 2 different offensive line coaches to come and go. He didn't recognize the talent that he had there, both in Scott Peters and also in Ashton Grant. Ashton Grant right now is doing a heck of a job coaching quarterbacks there in New England. They got a great chance to advance in the playoffs, but we'll see how that goes. But you had a guy right there that you didn't pay much attention to. You went out and got someone else to coach the quarterbacks who you had to guess about. And then the way they released the first OC after AVP was terrible, especially with his wife experiencing cancer. So it was a tough deal there.
Saphyr, what are your thoughts on
Yeah, for me, it's everything that Coach Stump says and said, and then as a fan, what sticks in my craw is that he put all his chips in on the table with Dilly Gabriel. Okay, and what we learned as fans, what week 11, 12, 13 was not only Shador Sanders was capable, but from our perspective, more than qualified, working with a broken offensive line, what I would call B level players, and I mean that with respect. We had no wide receiver. I just felt like he overperformed from a fan perspective. And I'm talking about Shador. So the hard thing for us was this is what we did not see, right, for the majority of the year. This was a player that was, on the team, in our camp, whatever you want to say, that for whatever reason, he didn't have an equal opportunity. That's just my opinion.
Well, Coach, I want to go right back to you. Uh, what do you think Kevin Stefanski needs to be successful? He gets another job. I mean, we know who he is. I've been talking to my friends across different states who root for other teams, and everyone has their opinions on the Browns and what's going on here. But we got a close up look. We have to watch the Browns and listen to the commentary week in and week out, day in and day out, Coach. What does Kevin Stefanski need to be successful, even if he gets another head coaching job? You know his makeup.
I know one thing: all of us, we learn from our mistakes, but we learn more from others' mistakes. Okay, Kevin made a lot of mistakes, no question about that. He always wanted to be the smartest guy in the room, but he was established with a great coaching staff. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. I talk about players because players are the ones who's going to get out there and they're going to win those games. You have to know the character of your players, and they may not be high profile guys, but they get the job done. They may never be heard of again anyplace else, but it doesn't matter. The people in Cleveland knew them. When I'm talking about Case Keenum, when I'm talking about Donovan People Jones, when I'm talking about Dearness Johnson, when you put those guys in and you did not miss a beat. You won ball games with them. And that's all people was concerned about. And they were great quality people, great quality players. And of course the coaches that were let go, they were quality coaches. Guys come in and try to do a job. The offensive line coaches and the offensive coordinators really didn't have a chance to do their job because I know the health or lack thereof of those offensive linemen. Those guys were not really able to participate in all of the off-season stuff in order to get ready for the season. And when it falls down to game time, they were taken advantage of. Andrew Berry allowed that offensive line to get old on his watch. Those guys should have been being replaced every year. One of them should have been replaced.
Sapphire, before we cut into the Andrew Berry uh, situation, I want to ask you. We talk about business because the NFL is a corporate business. It's ran like one. Coach Stump is an executive. We call him a football coach, but I always looked at him as a CFO or a COO of a major corporation, right? And so some of the same concepts will apply, and some of the things he talks about applies to the corporate world. I
Hmm.
want to ask you, Sapphire, from your experience, how do you think Andrew Berry and mainly Kevin Stefanski has been able to escape the accountability piece? They dig into Shador Sanders and break down every detail of what he does, but some kind of way, the head coach and the GM seems to escape an audit, right?
Well, and that's a great question. And just from, like you said, you asked me from my perspective in the business world, what I find is, in this case, it would be with respect, the Haslams, they come across like they don't know football and they over entrust the pieces that they have in place to make decisions. And again, with all due respect, I'm going to go back to Art Modell. He knew the culture. He knew the fan culture here in Cleveland, Ohio. He had his finger on the pulse. Maybe he didn't already always make decisions that fans liked, but he knew what was in our hearts, our minds. And I've never felt like, again, with all due respect, the Haslams made that a priority. If you don't know it, then there's a value in taking time and learning it. Yet or yesterday was the first day that I thought I heard Mr. Haslam express to the fans. that he agreed 8 wins in 2 years missed the mark. It was unacceptable. That was the first time that I ever really felt like he scratched the surface. Okay. So for me, it is just that maybe if they plugged in more, right? I mean, I don't know what goes on in the facility, how the decisions are made. Maybe, just maybe, they would have made the complete decision to thank Andrew Barry and send him on his way too, versus use analytics to say, okay, we haven't been good for a handful of years, but at least last year, Andrew Barry, with the draft, you got it right. So those are my initial thoughts on the question that you asked me.
Coach Stump, I want to ask you. So I thought we are judged on our performance and what deals we closed, how many games we won. They're all equivalent in a sense, right? So you know, I thought your record indicates who you are. You just mentioned 8 games in the last 2 years. We go back his 6 year run, two playoff appearances, one playoff appearance he didn't coach, and Andrew Berry. You know, and our guy Russ. People love the draft that he had, coach, but we can't just erase the last 5 years. We can't erase the fact that you let your offensive line deteriorate and the season, just catapulted and just destroyed itself, coach. So I want to ask you, uh, going back, and we're going to measure the whole body of work, right? The same way that the world will look at you and I and Saphyr and Russ. Looking at his body of work, coach. Let's pull something out the rabbit's hat. Is what good came out of that? What were the positive things you saw? What do you think his skill set that will allow him to be successful? Is that dependent upon his staff?
Well, I allow who to be successful.
Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, well, if you're talking about Kevin, it's obvious he's got to have a good staff. But that's any coach. I mean, any team deal. You have to have a good staff. You have to have people around you that that controls their group. You know, they have to have the same vision of the head coach. No biases towards players. You know, if they screw up, then whatever is in place by the league in terms of the collective bargaining agreement. Make sure you find those guys. Make sure you do what they agreed upon. You don't have to be a softy. I think Kevin just it got away from him. He thought he could. The best thing that probably made him was the people that surrounded him, and that's going to be great for anybody in a leadership role. If you constantly want to be successful, you don't want to have to watch your back. You want to be able to allow people and around you that's going to get the job done, even when you're not feeling your best. And that's what the coaches on the offensive side of the ball did. That I was a part of their staff, and those guys on the defensive side of the ball did the same thing. They demanded respect from the players, and Jim Schwartz, once he got there, they just fall in line behind the great soldier that he is.
Sapphire, did you feel any tinge of sadness, regret? Uh, it seems to me, Coach, I think we're so used to mediocrity here in this market with football. Given our past with the Browns, some people were sad to see Kevin Stefanski go, right? And I don't get that because your record, we know who he is. I have a good idea who he is and who he's not.
Hmm.
How did you feel, Sapphire? I mean, did part of you say we may not be able to do better than Kevin Stefanski, if you're being honest?
I don't have to be honest. My full no, full stop. No. Look, nobody wants to see anybody lose their livelihood. I mean, human lives are involved, ways of life are involved. And at the same time, I'm not trying to get up in his finances, but the media's reported the Browns still owe him $7 million. So, when we try to make these comparisons, like we're talking about tonight with businesses, corporations, how they run, how any leadership team should look like, how they should be integrated, I can go on for 100 years and tell you the number of people that I know that were summarily fired and lost everything. So I like to put it in that context, right? We're talking about a game. Yes, people's lives and livelihoods are involved, but not for a second. I was of the belief that Kevin Stefanski should have been separated during that bye week because we've been in rebuild mode for the majority of the season. So for me, no. Did I answer your question, Ro?
Yes, you did. So, Coach Stump, I want to go back to you regarding Andrew Berry and his tenure with the Browns, since you had been there and seen, being exposed to the culture there and some of the transactions that take place. Uh, do you think he can be successful moving forward and allow the organization to be successful with his decision making?
I don't think I don't think Andrew is going to be successful. I mean, so you got a couple players that came in and they performed well. But first of all, the running backs they should not have been there, okay? Because you needed offensive linemen and you needed a wide receiver. You had a running back in Jerome Ford that averaged 5.4 yards last year. So that wasn't the major part you needed. You needed some offensive linemen. That's what you needed. So I just don't see it. There's a lot of wheeling and dealing Andrews done, I guess, just to do it. But why get rid of guys that are productive, that are a low cost, and bring in guys make trades just to make trades? It made absolutely no sense. And unfortunately, for guys like Donovan Peoples Jones, it didn't work out for him someplace else. But that had absolutely nothing to do with the importance that he made to that team in Cleveland. And again, you paying Case Keenum, who was actually in Minnesota with with Kevin Baker get hurt. It's no big deal. Play Case. Instead, now you know Baker's going to be out. You bring in Deshaun now, okay, and you get rid of Case. Why get rid of Case? Case know your system. Let him play those games. But now you bring in three black quarterbacks. It makes no sense to me. Okay, you're gonna get rid of Baker. Keep Case because that's who needs to play to start the season off. Case has proven himself in Minnesota. He proved himself when he had to play games in Cleveland. So start off good, hoping Case got you in a position when Deshaun come back, you can still roll to the playoffs. But they traded him away.
Sapphire, we're going to. The great thing about this situation, and the great thing about life, all we got to do is sit back and let it happen, right? So we got our opinions, you know, between me, Russ, and all of us, we talk about a lot of different things
Yeah.
and communicate a lot about different scenarios and different opinions. But this whole thing with Andrew Berry is going to come down. Russ, that's your guy. We're gonna see we're gonna see if he's who we think he can be. I think I'll be right. Leaning on Coach Stump's you know his views and his experiences with the game. I think they're going to screw this up. I think they're going to screw up the coaching hire. I think they're going to screw up and get a quarterback between the one through the third pick that they have. I think they're going to
Wow.
screw this up. I'm only saying that because they've been screwing things up. I don't think a person wakes up and turns into someone else, right? You are who you are. I'm not a military guy, Sapphire, but I'm a little black and white myself.
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I just want to, if you don't mind, dovetail on something that you just said. I don't, in my gut, I don't think that Andrew Berry has longevity with the Browns either. I think he barely made the cut. I think his draft decisions this past off season really was the thing that just got him over the line. And I also believe that, to your point, the decisions that he makes in the upcoming draft are going to really, he's on the clock, as they say. He's on the clock himself. And maybe, just maybe, Coach Stump, do you think he learned anything from watching Kevin Stefanski self sabotage?
I don't know. See, I don't know if it was all Kevin. I don't know who decision it was to do whatever they did. Kevin, there's no way you cannot recognize, unless you're just a selfish, egotistical person, you can't recognize who's helping you to be successful. And when you stand to allow or don't stand for allowing to keep those people that made you successful, and now they're going to bring you a whole lot of new guys who you know absolutely nothing about, then you get what you get. You know, you get what you get. At some point in time, you got to say, "Hey, it's this is the way it's got to be." These guys uh, allow me to be successful. You know, I've people will throw out running back whisper and all of that crap with me. Listen, I coached some great players. Those guys afforded me the opportunity for people to put any kind of type of name they want to attach to me.
Okay.
But there's one person that I didn't get a chance to uh, turn the corner. You know, that's the person that the player that I feel bad for, because that player prevented us when I was with the Browns, in my opinion, from winning some games that we should have won. Some games that Kevin Stefanski called a hell of a game, but due to the production of my player, they didn't work. You know, so it's a tough situation there. You have to recognize the both the players and the coaches around you that allow you to be successful. And when you let those guys be departed from you, now you get a chance to see, or the world get a chance to see really how smart or genius you are. It didn't
Hey,
work.
Coach,
hey,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Ro. I'm sorry. I apologize, Ro. Jen Victoria, George Mallory, you're getting blowed up, as my grandmother used to say in the chat. I'm curious. Can you put Jen's last question up there regarding? Yeah, can you speak to this, Coach?
If you got a new head coach and they start to shine, if Andrew Berry would be on his way out, no, because if Andrew Berry, if he selects that head coach, then no, he's not going to be on his way out. Uh, everything it'll only make him look better. But instead of looking outwards, if Andrew Berry is the guy, he should be looking inward. That's Andrew's biggest problem right there. That's the biggest problem I have with Andrew. He don't realize what he has right there in the building when you're talking about both players that are low cost, low maintenance, but productive, and when you're talking about coaches, okay, he had all he needed right there in that building. He allowed Ashton Grant to get away. Okay. Also, Jim Schwartz. You don't need to look no further than Jim Schwartz as the next head
Mm,
coach for the Cleveland Browns. Why do I say that? Because everybody in that building, football players, respect Jim Schwartz. Even when they're not winning no games, they're going out there busting their behind for Jim Schwartz. If you allow him the opportunity to coach that football team, some of those things that those guys were having, they won't. Mr. Haslam won't have that conversation about Miles need to do some of the things, need to do better, need to be better at some of the things, but you still gave him $40 million a year. You wouldn't have to have that conversation because those guys got respect for Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz is a no nonsense guy. That's why the defense continued to go out and play, regardless of what the offense did. They tried to win games on their own. Did they get beat some? Yeah, they got beat some in the secondary. They may have given up, but for the most part, uh, he's the guy who should be the next head coach for the Cleveland Browns.
when we can't make the away games, we watch it on television, but we listen to the radio, Browns play-by-play, and especially before kickoff. And to speaking about Coach Jim Schwartz, they were reporting that he was in the tunnel and greeted every single player as they came out of the locker room and was like yelling, "Come on, let's go." And I thought to myself, I've never heard that Kevin Stefanski did anything like that or seen him do anything like that. So, Coach Stump, when you talk about the culture, when you talk about leadership, when you talk about the connectivity and a coach, the important for a coach to provide some like emotional stability, Jim Schwartz clearly checks those boxes.
Yeah, and Jim has had the opportunity to be a head coach once before. and it didn't work out the way he wanted things to work out. But he's been in that role before. So, like I said, the wisest thing is that you learn from your mistakes, but you also learn from others' mistakes. And he had the opportunity to be around Kevin and to see some of the things that he definitely know he would do totally different. But the main thing is that those players, I guarantee you, if you were to take a poll and ask them all one by one, who would they want to be the next head coach, they would say Jim Schwartz. Ain't no ifs, ands, and buts about that in my mind.
Well, Coach, I was actually going to ask you. They use the consulting firms, and then you have the media reports and the things of that nature that I think affects some of these interviews, if you will. But and Coach, you just said something about your tenure, and I think if we had football guys and people who are have a certain stature that come in, like Coach, when you walk in the room, people tend to straighten up a little bit if they have any common sense or can read the room at all. I'm just talking from a common fan standpoint. Stefanski walks in the room. I'm not going to straighten my back out and tighten it up. Right? He's just a guy. But uh, we're going to see Russ. I keep going back to Russ. We're going to see what happens and be able to keep close score on. Now Andrew Berry per se has a clean plate, not all the way clean, but every move he makes, we're going to be able to keep score now, right? There's nowhere to duck and hide now, right? They're looking like they're going to put their head coaching choices somewhat in his lap. He's going to be able to figure out what he's going to do at the quarterback position. And coach, I think this is really what's missing. I think they're going to have a hard time assembling the type of staff that they had when you and Callahan and AVP, Scott Peters, all these names we've been talking about all year, to even our team here, right? You can't replace certain people at what they do, right? And assembling, you just talked about it, coach, putting the right team around you to be successful. From a analytics, Ivy League nerdy guy, education is important, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to assemble the right people specifically in a short amount of time, coach. I mean, what kind of turnaround are we talking about here? This is not going to happen this next year. I don't expect them to be winning the AFC North, given, we need 5 linemen. We need probably 2 receivers. We need our special teams revamped. And you got to recreate the culture, coach. So you already went to Coach Schwartz. They said, hey, Coach Stump, what kind of guy do we need in here? What kind of stature, demeanor, or characteristic type of guy do you think that locker room needs? Looking at Deshaun, looking at the state of the overall culture over there.
Well, I think the first thing you try to do when you take a look at the AFC North, those guys, all they had to do was win a couple more games, and they were right there. So you got shakeups in Baltimore. You don't have to worry about Cincinnati. Okay, they didn't do much. You beat those guys. Uh, Pittsburgh, you split with them. I think you did. So they're right there. So what do? You hype up the players. How do you do that? You bring in Jim Schwartz. You name him the head coach. Okay, that's what you do. You still got to try to build the offense. It's no question about that. But you want to try to keep some type of continuity. You know, how, are there any other names out there that they're talking about?
Um, I just saw actually something that said Harbaugh might try to get an interview with the Browns. I don't know the can't state the source for that, but I just saw that before we came online tonight.
All 7 openings reached out to Harbaugh. All
Okay.
7 teams that had openings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, a guy that's been at one organization for 18 years, have done a fantastic job in the same division. It's no question, Jim uh, John will be a great candidate, no question about it. But just the familiarity with the players and that scheme not having to change because your offensive scheme is going to change. Those guys can still hit the ground running, playing good defense, and allow the offense to catch up. You
Mhm.
know, if you play better special teams. Now, I think they need They need another special teams coordinator. That's just my opinion. I'm not waiting to see, wishing for anybody to lose their job. But when you're talking about production, production speaks for itself, or it doesn't. I mean, and consistently, those guys did not perform well with special teams. Uh, the first time I ever been in an organization where you allowed a player's coach to come in and actually be involved with coaching at the facility. No, that's a no-no. You pay those guys to coach you wherever, but at the facility, the coaches that are getting paid for coaching, they're the one that's going to be coaching. Their job is the one that's uh, in line and on the line. I could be telling him one thing, but now his position coach, man, don't listen to him. And now all of a sudden we're not getting the job done that we needed to get done. And I think that played a part in some of the special teams wonders with York and probably a little bit with Deshaun.
Coach, some of the names that came up, we just saw offensive coordinator for the Ravens, Todd Munkin. Russ mentioned that earlier. The Browns requested an interview with him. Saleh, the defensive coordinator, was mentioned. Brian Flores. Some of these coaches are mentioned in all the jobs, by the way.
Well, those guys
Mentor,
those guys are great. Let's talk about defense. I don't think you would get a defensive coach that come in and allow the defense to play the way they're playing. I mean, they got to learn new schemes. Everything is a little different. Okay, you talking offensively. You named Todd Munkin. I love Todd Munkin. I think he would definitely be the thing that the quarterback, whoever that might be, would need because he's a stickler at everything. Lamar got better as a quarterback, as a passer. He was a good runner. Whatever type of quarterback that they're going to have there in Cleveland, I think Todd Munkin would do one hell of a job. A combination of Todd Munkin and Jim Schwartz. Whoa, lo and behold. There's just no telling where that team will be next year. I would pick them to win the division personally. If you had that type of combination in some way, because I know both of those guys. I mean, they're outstanding men. But right now, to kick it off, I would say Jim, because you already got the defense going in the right direction, and they can win some games for you. With Todd Monken, wow, that's a unbelievable candidate in itself.
And you know
Sapphire.
what? You know what, gentlemen? It's kind of what Coach Stump just said. I'm recalling listening to the post game presser. They asked Miles Garrett. They used the word rebuild, and he made it clear that he wasn't feeling a rebuild. Monday, when Andrew Berry had his presser, one of the press people asked him that same question, and I'm telling you, I heard Andrew Berry clearly clarify rebuild would be on the offensive side. It's like he knows what Coach Stump is talking about tonight, right? Why fix what is not broken? Why not enhance the areas you know you're deficient is in? And for that reason, I am riding with Coach Stump. To me, as great and respectful of what I just heard about Mr. Munkin, Jim Schwartz should be the future coach of the Cleveland Browns.
Well, Todd Monken is a heck of a coach. There's no question in my mind about that. If there was some way they could get both of those guys, now you got it. I mean, hell, head coach of the defense, head coach of the offense. Both of those guys I know would be able to work together. They don't care who gets the mic first or last. It doesn't matter. But I think that combination would be outstanding. Uh, and I don't know if well Todd don't really I don't know his situation in Baltimore now that Harbaugh no longer have a job. Those guys may be free to go somewhere else. You don't know what type of head coach they're going to hire there. But if you was going to bring in a defensive head coach to be the guy, you already got him in the building. Just move his office.
Coach, I have a question, I should say, or some insight. Something interesting is looking at Andrew Berry, and I don't mean to be pessimistic. about the future of the Browns. Um, However, I've been disappointed before, so but I'll say this, Coach. Given the tenure, let's just say Andrew Berry has learned. He's watched a lot. It looks like we can say he's a smart guy, right? Based on his past education and things of that nature, Coach. And let's just say he's learned and absorbed. Uh, it still comes down to well, let me ask you this, Coach. Does it come down to relationships? Does it come down to him understanding to get some football guys in the locker room? Like you need a Stump Mitchell in a locker room somewhere, right? Maybe two or three of those type of guys that also understand the intricacies of execution, but get down to the bare bones of things like accountability and culture and building relationships with players, understanding whose wife may be going through something, whose kid. You got to have your pulse on people in general. So I want to ask you this, Coach. Do you think there's a skill set there for Andrew Berry to say, okay, can he wake up tomorrow and be that guy? Because he has not been that guy, if we're being brutally honest.
No, he has not been that guy. I think he likes playing with the joystick. I think he likes making moves. Uh,
Right.
but and that's cool as long as they're the right moves. But he needs to understand uh, the passion of both players, coaches, guys doing their job. I mean, you don't have to look out. It's not a big deal. It's easy for you to see who those guys are. All you have to do is talk to the strength and conditioning coaches, talk to your the counselors that are there for those players, and just take a little time and not put yourself on the pedestal, but take a look at other people, players coming out getting extra work, uh, just everything like that. Even though you may think it's a little thing, it's a big deal. It shows you the guys that have the passion for doing what they're doing. Uh, Look at the fans. I mean, they have passion. They deserve more. They deserve better. And players, their career is only so long. You don't know when you're going to establish, unfortunately, a name for yourself or not establish that. You're trying to do this as soon as possible, and you're trying to prevent injury at the same time. And you have to be able to understand that a lot of changes have been made. I mean, they got rid of Joe Sheehan, who I thought was a hell of a trainer there. I don't know the reason for that. He can't keep players healthy. All he can do is try to get them back healthy. And I thought he did a fantastic job of doing that, not only with players, but me being one of his patients myself. I mean, I had knee replacement surgery. I know the guy did a fantastic job in trying to get everybody back to where they're supposed to be. So fingers have been pointed a lot of places, but Andrew needs to take a look in the mirror and understand when he's won, because still with Junkin did a heck of a job, but at the end of the day, he averaged less than 4 yards a carry, and that all balls back down to that offensive line.
Sapphire.
There was a saying, in my business world, there's a saying. It is like an age-old adage. Some people misunderstand activity for productivity. And just listening to Coach Stump, characterize, the perspective on Andrew Berry, you know, we talk about analytics. Every corporation uses the Power BI tools, right? They input a bunch of stats, it comes out, and these people look at it and they base decisions. They forecast the future based on numbers. But what Coach Stump just said is a lost art form. Mr. Berry, get up out of that office, get into the locker room, go down on the practice field, integrate with the players, get a touch and a feel for them. Add your intuition, right, to what numbers you're looking at. That to me, regardless of industry, is a lost art form. And this is why corporations are losing business of dollars. They spend all this money in marketing when they don't understand. You got to remember, word of mouth is still king. So it's the basic things. And I don't know if it's Andrew Berry's age. People talk about him coming out of Harvard, and all that is great. But we got to use the common sense the good Lord gave us. And I really think it's unfortunate that he has not demonstrated that he's done that. When I listen to him, he talks about these players like they're inanimate objects.
Mhm.
Using words like, "Oh, we felt comfortable with the product that walked in the building." I mean, just my head is twirling. He's not getting it. And so again, I'm going to ride with Jen Victoria, Mr. Mallory here. We need to go back old school. We need to look at the things that was the result of our success, and go back and see how we can integrate those and move forward. And I don't know that Andrew Barry has the capability, the comfort, or the confidence to do that.
Well, I would say he spent a lot of times around the players. Now, what he used to evaluate, I have no clue because those guys that I spoke on, all they ever provided was just great film. That's the stuff you want to see on film. They were great at practice, uh, and when given the opportunity, they were successful. And I think if somebody's going to give you a car for a great deal, then you take it. If the same place you're going to be able to get production from a car from that they want to sell to you 10 times the price, don't buy it. I mean, you're getting the same car, but you're paying less for it, but you're getting the same production. That's what you wanted, and he had that in those players and didn't recognize it. It was right there in his face. Don't turn away from it.
Coach, and our team here, Stump, I have to applaud you because you have pulled the dark cloud to the side and given us a reason. You're the only person on planet Earth that can convince me that we actually may have some good football to look forward to. And when you talked about the division we're in, Harbaugh was just relieved of his duties. Tomlin was probably if he loses that game against the Ravens,
Yeah.
he may be on our podcast tonight, right? And then Cincinnati has always had their struggles with the Browns, and they have their own things going on. They're trying to be successful, coach. And you made a great point. Uh, we were still, within reach to maybe grab that division, but maybe let a season get away. Had we got Flacco rolling in the preseason, get his reps in, some of the things you've been talking about for the last 19 weeks, Coach. I want to mention the NFL head coaching vacancies: the Falcons, the Browns, the Raiders, the Cardinals, the Titans, the Giants. And I think I mentioned the Ravens. It's almost like we can just juggle, and I mean that's a lot of vacancies. And Coach, I'm just going. This is on my mind. Somebody needs to call Coach Stump Mitchell and get him in the locker room. We're not going to let that slip under our radar, Coach. But out of all those vacancies, coach, not only do they have to fulfill the head coaching position, and they have to fulfill the staff, coach. So, what do you think? How much of it is a rat race? How much of it, these same coaches keep getting tossed around? Some of these mediocre coaches. They talked about Stefanski getting another head coaching job, maybe with the Giants. They can have him. Good riddance. But Coach, what do you think as far as that process of landing those jobs early and starting to secure your staff?
Well, I think the easiest place right there is in Cleveland. If you do the right thing and you were to hire Jim Schwartz, you don't have to worry about the defensive staff unless there's something that he wasn't pleased with, and if that's the case, then he would make that replacement. Offensively, I'm sure there will be someone that he could get to control that side of the ball. Todd Monken, I think, is a great guy. There's no question in my mind about that. I think he would be a great head coach there in Cleveland as well. But now you will have someone else on the defensive side of the ball because I don't think Jim wants to, and I don't know, but I don't think he would really want to work for somebody else when he know the nucleus of that team is the defense, and he know that he's powerful enough and has enough uh, pull that team will play for him. If it was some way they could have both of those guys, I think that would be the best because I think Todd Monken is one hell of a guy. I think he's one heck of a quarterback coach. I think he's one heck of an offensive coordinator, and I think he'll be a hell of a head coach, but I just think now you got to put all three phases together, as opposed with Jim. It will come together faster because those guys on offense know how demanding he is, and defensively you're just going. I mean, you don't have to learn anything else. You just continuing to get better. And now Miles will have to try to break his own sack record of 23. But those guys will feel good walking back in there when they come there in February or March, knowing that he's at the helm, and whoever else, they know he's got one heck of a staff, whoever he assembles it with.
Sapphire, do any of the other names excite you? Let's just say they screw up the Jim Schwartz situation, which I'm gonna jump out there and say they're going to screw that up. I see Jim Schwartz in Dallas, somewhere else. Russell, you'd be my first phone call when that happens. But does any of the other names excite you, Sapphire? Saleh from the Niners. They even talked about Tommy Reese getting an interview. I don't think you're going to jump for joy with that. Maybe Harbaugh coming over. I don't know how realistic or unrealistic that is. Does anyone else hit your radar and say that I want that guy?
I mean, I would have to agree with Coach Stump for all the reasons that he said, and hope that if that's the play, they figure out how to keep Jim Schwartz as the leader of the defense. You know, look, I used to be of the generation that was saying, "Oh, next year, next year, next year." I'm telling you, I'm at an age right now where I'm wondering if I'm going to have to watch the Cleveland Browns win the Super Bowl from from heaven above with the good Lord. I mean, it's that bad. You know, I'll say again, Jim Schwartz number one, and as Coach Stump said, I'd be open to Todd Munkin instead of, but with Jim Schwartz.
Coach Stump, any thoughts on that?
No, I love it. I agree. Todd Monk and I really love him, but right now, the city of Cleveland, the state of Ohio, that's Browns fans, they are impressed with the things that Jim Schwartz has done the last 4 or 5 years there in Cleveland. Why set the defense back? Now just work on the offense and also on special teams. And 1/3 of your team is right. Jim knows, he's been there. He know what they need to do, and he also know what type of personality of a coach they need on the other side of the ball. Uh, you know, he'll hold everybody accountable, and that's what you need.
Well, Coach, we're looking at it. Andrew Berry got his, new position. I don't know if it was a promotion or a demotion. You said it was a demotion, but he should have been lining up his ducks already. Jen talked about ducks. He should have probably told Coach Schwartz 2 weeks ago and whispered something in his ear like, "Hey, bro, you're going to be, my top of my list." He should not be just now formulating his plan, Coach. I don't know what that process looks like for him, but some of the things we're talking about, we knew about this 2 or 3 weeks ago, as far as the plight and the direction and some of the things that were going to occur with contracts, and they probably knew they were going to sever ties with Stefanski. I'm thinking, but with that being said, Coach, the Raiders looks like they're going to end up with the number one pick in the draft. I think we're going to have some must see TV RBU Stump Talk podcast committee here because with the new hires, coach, and the changes and things of that nature. So I want to tell our fans to stay tuned. We may do a impromptu podcast if we get some big news. When Dallas signs Shorts, we're definitely going to go live right
Oh
away.
boy. Oh boy.
I know that may sting a little bit, but I'm just preparing you guys for in case that happens. So, Coach, going into this part of the season, we got the playoffs coming up. Some teams got in, some teams were put out. We had the heartbreaking loss for the Ravens and the missed field goal. And so, looking at the offseason, Coach, going into this part of the season, what are teams thinking that are in the mix, that are in the playoffs? What does this week look like for them as far as practice, as far as the mental focus? What is the shift from the regular season to the playoffs for an organization?
There is no shift. I mean, it's one and done. Guys who can practice, they're practicing, and you got some teams that's playing on Saturday, some that's playing on Sunday. They know it's all or nothing. Uh, the teams that are in the fourth seed that have to play the fifth seed, you know, like Carolina. I mean, they barely got in. Uh, I think the 49ers. I'm not sure who's going to play them, but that team that's going to play them not going to be afraid. You know,
Right.
they're a lot of those last teams in fourth, and they playing a big team that's in the fifth spot. Uh, that have had probably a better record and probably was number two in their division. So those early games, uh, those home teams in the fourth spot, both in the AFC and NFC, got tough opponents. They could possibly lose those games.
Sapphire, I have a question for you, and
Mhm.
Coach, I want you to expound on this. Does Mike Tomlin have to win a playoff game to keep his job?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, if you take a look at the owner in Baltimore, he think that 18 years of success and one Super Bowl, but the last 3 years of the same thing isn't good enough. So he made a move. I mean, Harbaugh, I love Harbaugh as a coach, and I really feel bad for him because when you take a look at the last couple of years of things that has happened last year. Uh, Lovely dropping the ball, not catching the ball in the end zone.
Yeah.
Yesterday, they moving down. They think they got a field goal, and the guy missed the dang on field goal. But the owner has said, 3 4 years. I love John. He's done everything he possibly can in his power, but it's time to move on. And right now in Pittsburgh, uh, Mike Tomlin, yes, he's never had a losing season. The only coach that can ever say that. But what has he done lately? He got in the playoffs, but they haven't done anything. So do
Yeah.
they owner see that, hey man, it's time for us to move on? Maybe, maybe
So
not.
we got Denver and Seattle is they have a home field advantage throughout the playoffs. In the first round of AFC, we got Houston and Pittsburgh. We got Buffalo versus Jacksonville. The Chargers versus New England. Um, in the NFC, we got the Rams are playing Carolina. Coach Frisco's playing the Eagles, and then Green Bay and Chicago, two division rivals, playing each other for the third time this year. Coach, what do you think the chances of New England coming out of the AFC?
Well, I think it's pretty good, but Denver, I mean, Sean Payton knows what he's doing. You know, I was I was hoping personally that Shador had gone to Denver simply because of Sean Payton. You know, Drew
Mhm.
Brees tossed to the side. It don't matter. Sean Payton, he's doing well. Quarterback he's got there now. It doesn't matter. Small guy, he's doing well because of Sean Payton. There are some coaches that just demand perfection. They get you in line, uh, and guys that they don't think can be successful are successful. Gabriel, had he gone to Denver, it's the same type of quarterback that they have there, but it's Sean Payton. Kevin just didn't get it, didn't move the needle with those quarterbacks. The one he really should have gone with was Case Keenum, and he turned his back on it.
Sapphire, do you like any of the teams to? Do you like anybody to win it all that you say, okay, this is a juggernaut. This is who I think is going to be a difficult out.
I am very biased, so I'm not going to give you a an objective answer. My Browns are out, and because I pretty much came up in a suburb of Philadelphia, I will always root for the birds. So that's very subjective. But I did want to go back and say something. I'm going to be watching in particular how Denver moves because I think they've matured very quickly. And listening to Coach Stump, I can understand why. There's something about the Patriots, though, and Mike Vrabel and what he's been able to do there. So I think it's gonna the AFC playoffs is it's even more interesting to me than the NFC this year because of those two teams.
Coach, I'll be honest with you because of the great story behind Ashton Grant and your relationship with him. I'm going for the Patriots. I want to see that kid, uh, be a part of a Super Bowl run, so we can kind of magnify his skill set and let that young man shine coming off a little bit off the Stump Mitchell tree. So I'm going with the Pats. Coach Stump. Uh, Coach, who's your favorite? Well, Russ, welcome to the show. This is our executive producer Russell Johnson. Um, Welcome back, Russ.
Hey,
Dun-dun-dun,
I got
dun-dun-dun.
some picks. I got
Who
some
you
input. I like the Jaguars. I think everybody's sleeping on them. I like the
Okay.
Jaguars, and I like the Seahawks.
Okay.
Uh, Sam Darnold. That's another deal right there. Minnesota allowed Sam to walk. They could have put the transition tag or franchise tag on Sam. He had a heck of a year. You never know these quarterbacks going down, and just coming off a really good run last year. Sam meshed well with the receivers there. Those receivers in Minnesota had a terrible year, but he goes to Seattle, and I was happy when Sam went to Seattle because I was with Sam with the Jets. But I'm yeah, Sam DK. Wow, he's gone. Now the other receiver is gone, and all Sam does is help the receiver that they have there now become the number one receiver in franchise history in terms of yardage in a single season. And Sam is very, very, very productive. And the 12 there in Seattle,
Oh yeah.
they're going to be loud,
Yeah.
and you never know how the weather is going to be in Seattle. So uh, Sam just got to make sure he protect the ball. That defense is playing outstanding there, so
Yes.
it's going to be tough. They Someone's going to have to go through Seattle, and if
Yeah.
Sam can protect the ball, I think they definitely stand a good shot of going to the Super Bowl. Drake May is good, no question about that. He can do things with his legs. He's good. Uh, can definitely throw the ball. So if they can play some good defense, I think they have a chance to do it as well. But I've always been a Sean Payton guy. I
Okay.
love Sean. I think he's a hell of a coach. He's a no nonsense coach. So he's going to get guys to go. I just don't think their defense is one of the top defenses.
Mm.
Who? Denver?
I have
Yeah,
Denver.
Oh,
yeah,
I think Denver. I think Denver is solid. They led the league in sacks. I think
yeah.
they get after
They,
the quarterback pretty good, and they got
they
one of the top corners in the league.
yeah they led the leagues in sacks, but they're also vulnerable to the run. Uh,
Mhm.
and they've always been. I love Vance Joseph. He's my frat brother, but they've always been that way with the run. So if they can find a way to 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 re- to stop the run or to play the run better, I think you're absolutely right. If they can force you to throw the ball,
So, what team will be patient enough to run the ball against them if they get up early on the team? I think that's one of the things they like to get out early, and then rush the pass. Rush the quarterback.
yeah, that's who have home field advantage, Denver or
Denver.
New England. Denver's got home field
Denver.
advantage.
I think Denver.
Okay,
Hmm.
uh, well if they can, the one thing that has been uh, that Sean said that they need to improve on is turnovers in Denver. They have had some turnovers, and
Yes.
that can be costly. If they can prevent that, then their defense will probably be good enough to hold whoever they have to play
I
against.
think I think that works for Sam Darnold as well. I think if he can hold on to the ball, the way they run it with their running back combination, they come with two different styles, but they're hard. Charbonneau is hard
Probably,
to
yeah,
tackle. Yeah, he's hard to tackle in the open field, and their defense they bring it. So that's why I like Seattle.
So, Coach, I have a question, Coach. I'm looking at the brackets here. I think is especially Chicago and New England are number two seeds, respectively, in the two conferences. Coach, how much do you think? Let's just say Chicago goes to the NFC champ. Well, let's just say Seattle gets beat. Now Chicago has home field advantage. It's cold. It's a different kind of cold in Chicago, Coach. I lived there for 10 years. Shador found out that it's real out there off that lake.
Yeah,
Do you
real.
think weather can help a team like New England or Chicago if they get through the playoffs and maybe that number one seed doesn't make it?
absolutely. Weather can help. I mean, but at this point in time, you have to be able to play some defense as well. With Chicago, you got to be aware. and ready for everything because they got a bunch of tools. I'm not calling them trick plays, Russ, because they that's what they do.
That's what
You
they
know,
do.
they practice those things just like they practice their base plays.
Yep.
Those for them are base plays, and they expect them to work just like any other play. So you have to defensively prepare for everything. You know,
To expound on that, coach, Chicago is it's like trick plays on offense and defense. You know, they're opportunistic on defense, not the best, but they get a lot of turnovers, like fluky turnovers. So I say it's like a trick play on defense. You know what I mean? Because they got Peanut Tillman. Yeah, I think it's the secondary coach, and he's teaching those guys to go after the ball.
and you know, Peanut, that's one thing he was known for, creating fumbles, knocking the ball out of people's hands during his playing days. That was a big thing, and of course, he's gonna teach those guys how to do the same thing, and you know, they know he knows what he's talking about.
Absolutely.
I just want to give us all a last word. I'm going to start with you, Russ, going from left to right. If you can tell the brass and the executives at the Browns, this is what we need to be done, what would you tell them?
Um, Take a long look at Schwartz. If you bring him in, if you hire him as the head coach, make sure you get a good plan on offense. See what you got in the quarterback room. No reason to reach. Go in the draft, get the best player available.
Sapphire, what would you tell the Browns?
I would say to the Browns to listen to Coach Stump Mitchell and everything that he said. His decades of experience on the field as a player, as a coach, as a former member of the Cleveland Browns, who probably still understands the mindset of the majority of the players, right? And I would strongly encourage them to listen to him, receive his feedback, and incorporate that into their decision making process.
Coach Stump, and you said it uh, during our 19 weeks, in which we're going to probably continue through the playoffs to cover the NFL coach. But uh, what would you tell them? I have an idea what that is, but what would you tell the Browns to
I
fix
would
their cure?
I would say don't be, uh, don't worry about being the first to name two guys head coaches. Create something. You don't have to be a follower. You can be a leader. When you're talking Todd Munkins and Jim Schwartz, I don't think you can get anything better than that. And you shouldn't have to settle because I know both of those guys from a personal standpoint, their ego is not such. They're individuals. Their ego is about team. So if you can find a way to hire both Todd as the offensive head coach and Jim as the defensive head coach, and they come together, you have a conversation with those guys. We like everything that you bring. This is what we need. Oh man, I think they hit the ground running because that offense needs someone who can handle the quarterbacks, and you don't need that defense to take a step back because no matter who they bring in, Russ, they're going to have that defense is going to have to carry them,
Yep.
from the start. And if they could do that, man, I think people would
And
be
I,
extremely
I was
happy.
kind of thinking the same thing, Coach. Could you have like a co-head coach situation, and how would that work at press conferences? Would they just like both be there post game press conference, and But yeah, I think that would be a great idea.
Yeah, I think you could do whatever. Those guys, all they care about is winning.
You take
Okay.
the ego out of the
Yeah,
room.
yeah.
Just
Take the ego out of the room. Schwartz taking care of the dang on defense. Uh, Todd's taking care of the offense, and they're all taking care of special teams and taking care of the team. Those guys drinking coffee together, tea together, whatever it may be. They discussing what they need to do to move the team forward. Of course, it's complementary football. They all know that, and
yeah, absolutely.
just let it go to work. But I wouldn't want to lose either one of those guys to anybody else.
So the Browns are going to do exactly what Coach said. Book your tickets to the Super Bowl. We're going to have a 1 year turnaround. Change my mind. Barry's great. We're going to the Super Bowl. I want to say go Browns. Thank you guys for tuning in. Coach Stump, Sapphire, Russell, RBU Stump Talk Podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.